Hello. It's Emma Holmes coming in from Rockstar HQ, and I'm sharing with you something a little bit different on the YouTube channel today. This is a recording of a live interview that I did with the gorgeous Dr. Marguerite. Dr. Marguerite is a practicing GP and also a health coach, and we talked about the impact that entrepreneurship has upon your health, and it was such a super interesting and insightful chat that I wanted to share with you here on the YouTube channel. So dive on in and enjoy this video. Speak soon. Bye.
Gorgeous Rockstars! Happy Friday. I'm joined today by the very gorgeous Dr. Marguerite. Hi, Dr. Marguerite. How are you?
Hello, my darling. I'm absolutely glorious down here in Suffolk. We're glorious in Suffolk, yeah.
Very cold here at Rockstar HQ because we don't have any heating. So, but the funny thing was, I was just messaging Trudy Core and saying about how cold I was. And she went, "Don't you have open fires in your house?" Yeah, I've got 4 fireplaces in my house. I even thought about how they might be a really good place to start.
I know, but it gets to that point, doesn't it? It doesn't matter how many clothes you put on, once your core is cold, it's like,
Yeah, so it is, it's a little bit on the chilly side, so I might have a little bit of a red nose, but hey ho, let's just go with it and see where we go.
You're looking beautiful, my love.
I'm going to just share this broadcast out there because this is this is a really important one. And if you are watching live, we would be ever so grateful if you did hit the share button, because I think that we're going to be talking about some stuff today that is a hugely interesting topic. We said just before we started, didn't we, how it is such an interesting topic. And we're talking about the effects on your health of entrepreneurship. So if you haven't met Dr. Marguerite before, she is a practicing GP and a health coach. Would you like to do us a little bit of an intro to what it is that you do, who you are, where you are, kind of deal?
Yeah, sure. So hello, everybody, and thank you for inviting me here today. And I'm really, really grateful to you and grateful to anybody who's joining live. I'm really excited about this topic because it's something that's very close to my own heart, being an entrepreneur myself. And so essentially, so just to introduce myself. So my background is that I'm an NHS GP. I've always been really passionate about the more holistic approach to health. So really, and particularly the bits that we can, what can we do ourselves to help ourselves? So looking at things like food and lifestyle and all that kind of stuff, because it's really important. So that was always my bag. And then what I have done over the last few years, I have kind of deepened into that and have taken on something called functional medicine training, which allows me to be a doctor, but using the functional medicine approach, which is kind of like a really, really holistic way of looking at health and really holistic way of doctoring. And so, the thing with functional medicine, it really asks the why. Like if you go to your GP and they say to you, you have got depression, what a functional medicine doctor will do differently is they will say to you, why have you got depression? Why have you got fatigue? What is going on? And therefore, what can we do to support you at sort of root cause level? So this is basically the fundamental difference, I would say. And then, as Emma also said, I do also work as a health coach, which is where, because a lot of these pieces, we need just lots of support, ideas, encouragement, witnessing, listening. It's really important part of the journey. So that's what I do. And where I am right now, I'm in my clinic here in Suffolk. It's in the countryside. It's gorgeous. And it's just, so that's me really in a nutshell.
Fabulous. So if you're joining us live, come on in, say hi, let us know who is around, let us know who's watching it. It'd be lovely to see who's about. And we would also love you to give us any input that you would like to give us insofar as, anything that you want to address from being an entrepreneur and the impact that it has on your health. Definitely. I would love to know sort of a bit of a broad brush. I know that I can also feed into this one, but what do you see being the biggest things around entrepreneurship and health?
Yeah, so it's a really interesting one, actually. I think with entrepreneurship, it in itself brings particular challenges. It's more than just, a job or your work, because actually when you're an entrepreneur, it's your passion, isn't it? And it's that's really, when you're really putting yourself out there and your vision for what what you're trying to create, it's keeping your passion. And to have awesome passion, you need good energy. You know, it's really hard to kind of communicate your passion if you're feeling, you know, and if you're just struggling your way through the day, it's really hard. So I would say the biggest challenge is that keeping that high vibe thing really kind of, you know, shiny and sparkly and crisp, you know, really, so that you, and also in doing it in a way that you feel confident about it. Because yeah, I think sometimes we think, oh, I've got to come across all buzzy today. You know, if you're an entrepreneur and you're doing, say, some social media, and you think, I've got to look all really like look the part and everything. Yeah, you do, because people buy into your passion. You know, they buy into you. And I know, Emma, you're always telling us this, aren't you? You know, it's communicating. Yeah. So it's communicating, it's all of that, and being that, you know, being the passion, being the holding that vision for what you're doing in your work, and being that vision. But that needs you to be high vibe. And I think that's the biggest thing I tend to see. And it's also my own experience, actually. I mean, again, Emma, I know that, you know, I've worked with Emma one-to-one, as well as, you know, being part of your groups and so on. But we do need that support. We need, you know, we travel together, don't we? We travel the road together. And that isolation thing, that thinking you have to do it all by yourself, those expectations we load on ourselves, that I have to have all the answers, I need to be able to do it all, you know, all of that sort of part of it. So there's lots of things, I think, that are really quite unique to when you're an entrepreneur. But I'd say the biggest thing is that keeping that passion, keeping that, you know, particularly if you say hitting a bit of a patch where you think, you know, why are people say not buying, or why is it not flowing, or what am I not doing right? You know, when you hit all those barriers and so on. So say again.
Frustration, energy.
Yeah, absolutely. So I think you know, and the truth is that I think it's a really important one to kind of honor that this is kind of what it takes, you know. And I think being yourself is a really big part of that, you know, but keeping the vibe, keeping the passion, keeping the energy kind of nice and high, and knowing how to do that, you know, and yeah, and sustaining that part of your health really, so that you can do that. That's some of the big stuff I see.
So if we look at that, you know, that kind of is that feeling of, I suppose, being generally worn out. If, you know, the opposite to high vibe is feeling worn out, isn't it?
Yeah.
And what is it that we can start to look at and start to examine about keeping ourselves in that high vibe place? About, you know, sometimes I exhaust myself sometimes, you know, with my giddy energy. But, you know, how do you make sure that you're not wearing yourself out and that you can maintain that high vibe?
Yeah, absolutely. And I think, you know, I think there's a few things that come into play on that one. I think the first thing I would say, you know, and I guess I would say that as a doctor, is, you know, if you've got health issues that are kind of grumbling away, I think I would strongly encourage addressing them, you know, rather than just brushing them aside, and kind of thinking, oh, well, it'll just take care of itself. You know, being quite proactive about your health management. And I don't necessarily mean that, you know, even things like, you know, if you feel that you're unfit and you need to, you know, that kind of thing. So taking active control over your own health, really, that's one sort of general broad area. And I think that the biggest mindset piece that tends to go with that is this thing about, you know, taking care of yourself, that time and effort it takes to look after yourself, to nurture yourself, to not deplete yourself. So that kind of the combination of, you know, quite proactively looking after your health and almost seeing it as an asset to your business. You know, part of your business toolkit is, you know, me as entrepreneur person, I need to be high vibe. I need to be, you know, I need to keep my energy levels nice and shiny, I would say. So that self-care mindset really, really comes into that, and everything that gets in the way of that, you know, like, oh, it's selfish, I can't possibly, you know, I feel too guilty if I spend time looking after myself, or if I spend money on, you know, a personal trainer to help me, all these things, you know, and that gets in the way, I guess.
I think the big thing for a lot of people with entrepreneurship, and, you know, a lot of people do come to entrepreneurship because they don't feel well enough to work. So there is often underlying health issues that go with being an entrepreneur. I'm not saying that that's exclusively the case, or there's additional caring roles. So there's generally, there tends to be other things tied into being an entrepreneur. And I think that often what people do, and I know that I was guilty of this, was that when I had the children at school, every single minute of that time had to be used for work.
Yeah.
And then I would then go straight into school run, school, after school, looking after coming out of the other end at maybe 8, 8:30 at night, being out of the other end, sometimes then working again. Yeah. And then doing the same thing over and over again across the week. Yeah. And because we feel so passionate about what we do, it often doesn't feel like work. Yeah. Also, we feel that we need to put in the work. You've got to put the work in to get the work out. Yeah. That your health does take a back seat. And, you know, I think that if we can give you one thing to take away from this, that we've probably both done, is put all of our eggs into our caring roles, everyone else, and our business, and neglected anything coming back to us. And this isn't about going and having a bubble bath or any of the airy fairy kind of self-care, which, you know, a lot of people then just go, really? Yeah. But there are lots of things that go into this, aren't there? There are lots of elements that go into caring for yourself. I think you said there, you know, actually getting some help and support if you have an underlying health issue. And
and taking that seriously, you know, and really, connecting with that rather than just kind of wishing it wasn't there, which I know I've done that in the past. I've kind of, you know, I mean, in the past, for example, I've struggled quite badly with depression in the past, and just think, no, it's not there. You know, you just ignore it, and you don't actually tackle it head on, whatever tackling head on looks like, you know, but you can't ignore things, because ignore them at your peril, you know, it's that.
I am the person who, in a 4-day urine infection, ended up in intensive care with septicemia. So please don't ever say that, you know, it's just this and I'll get through it, because there are times when it becomes a lot more than just that. Yeah. Even if it isn't just that gradual kind of feeling, not so well, not so well, not so well, not so well. It can be like slap. Yeah. You know, so
absolutely.
I really like the, you know, like you said, the functional medicine approach. Like, this is what you've got, but actually this is why. Yeah, you know, absolutely. Rather than, I suppose, the traditional approach has always been, this is what you got, there you go back, get better.
Yeah, and I think also what's also really lovely about it is that a little can go a very long way. You know, and because we tend to assume, the answer is going to be something really complicated that I haven't got time to do, and it's all going to be really, really hard. But actually, you know, little things done consistently can actually give you huge results, you know, and especially when it comes to health and self-care. And I really, really mean that, you know, it's not. So just to give you an example, for example, let's see. So I had a lady, just for example, she's actually a GP, and she had really severe IBS to the point where she was actually having time off work for this, and, you know, had all the standard NHS kind of stuff. And then basically all she did was started hydrating herself properly, and she did a proper sugar detox. 7 weeks later, IBS was gone, off all her meds. And this is, you know, and I'm just giving you an example. I'm not saying everybody's IBS would respond in this way, but this is, you know, for a lady who'd had it for a long time, had really struggled with it. She was a professional woman herself. She had to be on it. And, and it was something that simple, like completely non-drug, really simple. And it just turned things around for her, you know. And this is what I mean, that, you know, simple steps done consistently can give you massive results. because what you're doing is you're doing a different dance with your body. You know, you're offering it like a different thing. If you think of our external environment and our internal environment, you're offering it a different internal environment. And, you know, it's like going into a building that's suddenly all shiny and sunlight instead of one that's dark and cold and, you know, hasn't got a fire in it. Emma.
One thing that resonates with me when you talk about that as well is there's something that you see every now and again on social media about choose your hard, and something that might seem hard right now to implement can actually set you free from this hard that you could be in forever.
Yeah. So the price you pay for staying stuck, isn't it? You know, so sometimes I think the question is not like, have I got time to do this? The question might be actually, can I afford not to do it?
Yeah.
You know, what's the cost for me if I stay in my fatigue, if I stay stuck in my fatigue and my yuck and my unfitness? In 6 months' time, how much more productive could I have been in 6 months if I'd taken care of it? You know, and just imagine what becomes possible then.
Yeah.
You know, and we pay a really high price for staying stuck, even though we stay. And I've done it myself lots of times. You know, when I look back, I think, oh my goodness, you know, I could have done that. I could have handled that a lot better, and maybe a bit sooner. You know?
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah, I think that, if we look at, I suppose, breaking that down, there is the underlying medical issues. There is self-care. And I often talk about the fact that you are the biggest asset in your business.
Yeah.
And if your computer was a little bit, you know, sick and unwell and a bit dodgy, you wouldn't just, you know, just leave it. And if it broke, then you wouldn't just leave it.
Yeah.
But you're a bigger asset than anything else that you've got in your business.
Yeah.
So how do you look at prioritizing taking care of you as an asset?
Yeah, so that's a really interesting one. And I think I guess first of all, it's, you know, I guess just doing a little stock take around actually where are you at, you know, isn't it? What actually needs to be taken care of, and just a real dirty down, honest little brain dump on, this is actually how I feel. This is actually how I think my energy levels are. This is actually how my motivation is. Honest, hands down truth. This is actually, you know, it's just really a good stock take, because I think sometimes just doing that exercise by itself, even if you did nothing about that list, even if it was just an A4 piece of paper that you screwed up and chucked in the bin, actually just doing the stock take, sometimes you think, oh, actually, that's not so bad. Or actually, if, you know, by staring the thing in the face, you kind of think, oh, hang on a minute, if I did this one thing, that would take care of that, and that. Oh, okay, well, that's not so bad then, rather than it being a list like a million things long. Because in our heads, we tend to make it worse than it really is, don't we? Our imagination takes over. That's a clever word.
And then what we do is we then continue to seek evidence that that's true.
Yeah.
So we then have that compound effect of seeking the evidence that that's true. I think that also there's two camps as well. There's the, I haven't spoken to anybody for days and days and days because I've been sat in front of my computer. I haven't actually spoken to anybody in real life. I think this is particularly relevant if you don't have like things like school runs to do, because sometimes in a day, other than family, I will only speak to people on the school run. But some people, it's like, I don't leave my house all day long and just work and just work. Or I feel like I'm running around like I don't know if it's just a northern expression, like a blue-arsed fly.
Yeah.
Zipping here, zipping there, round there. So how do you look at actually being able to regulate and create? I suppose we always want to create a happy medium, don't we?
Yeah, and although I think that this is one of, like you said, just highlighted beautifully, it's like one of the things about entrepreneurism, isn't it? It's like if there's no external call on you to go and do a school run or to go and attend to something else, actually it's very easy just to have, you know, they're like natural boundaries, aren't they? If you like, they're natural stop points. And if we don't put natural stop points into our day, whatever that looks like, then actually it's much easier to let it all just run away. And, you know, from the moment you get up, you're checking your emails, you're doing a bit of social media, then the day goes on and, you know, you might remember to have breakfast or you know, but all these So I guess it's about creating some natural stop points that actually are going to serve you. And so this is like, you know, really getting that win-win thing going, isn't it? Like if you've done your little stock take and think, actually, what could I do? You know, what are some things I could do? And then perhaps just, you know, putting some stop points in, and always starting with really small things. Because I think if we suddenly say, oh, I'm going to have a whole day off, you freak out, don't you? Because you think, well, I can't have a whole day off because, you know, the world will end and, you know, my business will plummet and, you know, oh my God, what will happen if I have time off? And, you know, oh my goodness, you know, we panic, don't we? Because we're so close to what we're doing. But little stop points actually will often do the job, like you've just mentioned. I mean, you've got some natural ones there with the school run, but we could have other natural stop points. Like, for example, I recently signed up to a Pilates class, which is 2 minutes down the road from me, but it's in the middle of the day. And I deliberately chose that class rather than an evening one. So it makes me stop.
Yeah.
Things like that, you know.
And I think, you know, I had to get to the point where I have a recurring reminder to have lunch. And I know that, you know, sounds really ridiculous, but at 12:30 every single day, it comes across my screen that it's lunch. Because I'm often getting to 3 o'clock and going, shit, I haven't eaten today.
Yeah.
And having, you know, if you need to have the reminders in there, then actually do that.
Yeah, it's like having a school bell, isn't it? Having your own school bell. It's lunchtime. Yeah, so creating natural stop points, you know, for things that you need to do anyway, like eat, you know, maybe go for a 10-minute walk. And as I say, it doesn't always have to be a huge thing, just to create those natural little pause points. And then actually often you work much better after that when you've had a tiny breather. And yeah.
So as well with lots of entrepreneurs, the big buzz thing that seems to be flying around at the moment is adrenal fatigue. Now, I'm seeing this everywhere right now, particularly from American entrepreneurs. It seems to be a big thing that they're talking about right now. Yeah. What is it?
Cool. Yeah. So adrenal fatigue is, so we have hormone glands in our body, and I'm sorry if I'm speaking at too simplistic a level. I don't mean to be rude, but we have hormone glands in our body that secrete hormones, so things like your thyroid gland up here. But you also have two tiny ones that are literally like the size of your thumbnail that are stuck on top of your kidneys, like just about in there. Right. You have two of them, a right and a left one, and their job is to secrete this chronic stress hormone called cortisol. Mm-hmm. Now, when we are under sources of chronic stress, so things like, you know, if you've got young children, you're chronically sleep deprived, if you're always on it and never take a rest and there's no balance in your life, or if there is constant sort of worry and anxiety and stressiness, you know, and we could go on about exactly what's chronic stress, but basically when the job falls to your adrenal glands, those tiny little thumbnail sized things, to keep pumping out this cortisol hormone, keep pumping it out. And they'll do it pretty happily for months, years if necessary. And then they get to the point where they go, ugh, do you know what? We're a bit tired.
Bored now.
Yeah, you know, really? Do I have to do it again today? Really? And they kind of go, do you know what? We'll do it a bit. We'll just do it in the morning, but not in the afternoon. Or, you know, we won't bother very much in the morning. But if you really make us, then come later in the day. I might just, you know, so you get this classic morning dip where you just can't get going for hours. And then come lunchtime, you feel like you're just about back on it. This is your adrenals kind of ruling the show, really. So when you say adrenal fatigue, there are different levels of it, depending on just how tired and exhausted your adrenal glands are and how fed up they are. Right. And so in a nutshell, that is what adrenal fatigue is. And the impact on your body of that, it depends on where along the lines you are. If you're in the early stages of it, you probably have that kind of tiredness where it sort of takes, you know, you're like getting through the day is really quite hard work, but you can just about do it. You know, you go to bed exhausted, you wake up still feeling probably pretty crap, but, you know, you're managing it. Next stage on is that and worse. So what then starts to happen is you start to put weight on around your middle, because this cortisol is just forever, like, really, and it also means you start to get more prone to colds and stuff, and colds just don't shift because it affects your immune system. And then when it really gets bad, you know, you're the walking wounded really, and you're in, you know, you're trying to sort of stay. So there's levels of severity of it. You know, if someone says, oh, I have adrenal fatigue, you know, what they're really saying is that something has gone on for a long time and now it's decompensated. You know, the body has just gone, I've just had enough, you know. So that's really what it is. Yeah, does I mean, I don't know if anyone who's on the call live has got any questions about that, or is that something that
I think what's interesting is that it's, I suppose it's, as a layperson, it's, you've been on like wide-eyed on, and then you've gone, eat, we're not doing this no more.
Yeah, exactly.
And then you become very tired and fatigued and find it difficult to, don't lick my face.
Yeah, so the thing with that is just a sort of couple of things to say about it. One is, it's, you know, it's normal to get tired, isn't it? Because, you know, we're all busy, we do stuff, and that's fine. This kind of fatigue is different in that you kind of, even with a good night's sleep, you don't really recover. You know, it's that kind of, you know, you've sort of lost your recoverability really. So that's one way you'd know that it's not just your normal tiredness because you've had a busy day. And the other thing to say is it's also quite different to say chronic fatigue syndrome, which tends to have a different set of underlying causes. People who have chronic fatigue syndrome or fibromyalgia, which are kind of both kind of similar ends of the same thing, they often will have adrenal fatigue as part and parcel, but it's not the underlying cause. So that's sort of a different thing, yet a different box yet again, if you like, just to draw that distinction, because I'm aware that there might be people on the call who think, oh, if I've got chronic fatigue, maybe that's my thing. But it wouldn't be, it might be part and parcel of your thing, but it wouldn't be the whole thing. Yeah, if that makes sense.
Yeah, absolutely. So as entrepreneurs, what sort of things can we start to really consider, think about, implement that are going to make the biggest differences in what we do?
Yeah, so I think, you know, some of the things we've already talked about. So really honoring the fact that, you know, you are the most important asset in your business, and in that is, you know, your energy, your wellness, your ultra health really is really worth nurturing, because it will allow you to keep managing it and showing up as that passion for your business. So I'd say, you know, to invest in that is like a real thing, you know. So that's first thing. And to kind of look at your own mindset around, you know, do I tend to kind of minimize it? Do I really, you know, am I really being honest with myself where it's at for me? In terms of practical things, I think, you know, what we just talked about is that pacing thing, about having stop points in the day. And that's really about controlling that sort of level of stress, isn't it? That so you don't get into overwhelm, you don't get into sort of lockdown. So those are, I would say, are sort of like the background kind of coloring. And then if you said to me, look, if you, do you want a list of like the top 5 things I can do to kind of get my energy, you know, nice and lifted, then, you know, some easy to do self-care things around that. You know, my sort of go-to for that is some really simple practices, like we said earlier. So like, you know, like the lady that I mentioned who just did beautiful hydration work, sugar detox work, in alongside that, for good, you know, for good physical energy, so that we can also feel better emotionally, is supporting good gut health. And one of the easiest things to implement there is just to eat a ton of vegetables, so that, for reasons I could, you know, explain, protect your sleep at all costs, and actively look at your stress points. You know, look it in the face. Don't kind of, the commonest thing I see with people is they go, oh, well, the stress, I can't do anything about it, so therefore I won't engage with it. Because they're upfront already anticipating that actually this is something I can't do anything about, therefore I'm not even going to look it in the eye. But actually nothing could be further from the truth in that sense, in that even just looking the beast in the eye is already a powerful action step to take. You know, looking, and then, you know, what I sometimes end up kind of saying to people is, look, you know, it's not, maybe you can't control the fact that, you know, you've got all these practical things in your life that just need doing, and the job falls to you to do them. You know, life is busy, it's intense, but you can change how you connect to it. You can change your response to it. So that's an area of wiggle room, if you like. And also, once you start to stare them in the face, I think some of them you can start to see, you think, oh, hang on a minute, like this one's really, really important. This one's an absolute, but this one, do you know what? If we just kind of dialed it down a bit, instead of doing it, 90%, we could maybe do it 50%, really wouldn't make that much of a difference. Well, then there's your wiggle room, and sometimes it's looking for the wiggle room rather than kind of trying to cure something or remove a stress. That's not always possible, but it doesn't mean to say that it's not worth kind of really having a really good look at it. Yeah, so those are kind of my top favorite 5 in terms of things that you can actively do to, and I'd usually say start with 1 and then build that up, and then when you've got there, add in the next one, and just gently start to kind of move yourself into a different space with it all.
One of the interesting ones that I picked up on there was guarding your sleep. I know that lots of entrepreneurs are quite shit at sleeping. There's an awful lot of insomnia within the entrepreneurial space. Have you got anything? I'll come to yours, Kathy, in just a second.
Yeah, so protecting your sleep. So sleep's an interesting one. So when I do work with people around their sleep, what we find quite often is that changing our behaviour around the going to bed routines and the getting up routines can often have massive effects. Again, we tend to sort of, I'm going to use your word, Emma, we tend to catastrophize. We tend to think that there's something terribly underlying wrong. And actually, there's nothing we'll be able to do short of taking sleeping tablets. And I don't want to do that, so I won't even go there. And we end up stuck in that, holding ourselves stuck in that place. But actually, there are lots of things that you can do around sleep. And, if this is like a topic that people were like, I'll go into a few pointers now, but if that was a topic that is like really big for this group, I'm really happy. If we wanted to have a session on that specifically at some point, we could do. Because there's lots and lots and lots to tell about that. But if you said to me, look, give me 3 good tips that I could do to kind of protect my sleep. The first thing, actually, it sounds bonkers, but it's sugar detox work. That really has a massive impact on people's sleep for all sorts of bits to do with physiology. Really, really big one. Second is to try and get into bed by about 10, because come 10 o'clock we have our natural cortisol and hormone, our sleep hormone melatonin have this sort of relationship, and at 10 o'clock is kind of when they do their handover, if you like. So if you can kind of catch that bit of sleep around 10 o'clock, there's 2 peaks of it, 9:20 and 10:20. So but if you get into bed by 10ish and you're nice and chilled out, then actually that lets you catch that real wave of real good restorative sleep. So that's the first thing, and so that 10 o'clock bedtime thing, if you can, is really powerful. And what they say, isn't it? It's an old wives' tale, I guess, isn't it? That the first 2 hours of your sleep are worth more than the rest of the night put together. But this is the reason why, because you get this sort of handover of hormone, this switch, so that actually is really powerful in terms of restoring your energy levels for the next day. So that's one thing. The what you do in the hour before bedtime. Switch off your screen, switch off your Wi-Fi, because this is what actually then primes those hormones to make the switch. If you're on it right to the moment you go to bed, your hormones get confused. They don't know, because they actually operate on light signals. So they do, if it's light, I do this, and if it's dark, I do this. And if you confuse them, because, we're still in the light and we're still seeing mobile phones and we're still, doing Facebook in bed and all of that sort of thing. Not thinking of anyone in particular here at all.
Not me. Not me. My fault. We have no devices in our bedroom.
Hey, I've had to take myself in hand just recently, because it sort of crept back in, and it does, doesn't it? And it's so there's that, what you do in the hour before bedtime, the 10 o'clock bedtime thing, and then the sugar detox work sort of daytime wise, because And I know it sounds bonkers. You think, why would that help my sleep? But it just does. I've seen it time and time again. You know, people come and say, I want to lose some weight or whatever, you know, is the main thing. And then we do some of this work, and then they go, actually, do you know what? The thing I've really noticed is that my sleep's massively better. You know, I go, so, okay, that's good. And that's not what they came for, but actually it's kind of like a nice, you know, it's actually one of the biggest kind of perks of the work, actually. And again, it's all to do with supporting those hormone levels, really. So yeah, and then the other thing that's really great is so actually 4 things, isn't it? Is to get up at the same time every morning. So even at weekends and holidays, so that because that morning getting up time is like your set point. It's like, so all these lovely hormone cycles that I was just talking about, the way that they know, because they sort of need to know, well, where's the start? You know, if I know where the start is, then I know when I need to do my blippy thing, and I need to know when I go down, and then I know where I am. But if that start point is, you know, 6 o'clock on a Monday to Friday, and it's, you know, 10 o'clock on a Saturday and 9 o'clock on a Sunday, it's going to go like, you know, I haven't got my timing. I haven't got my set point. Yeah. So if your sleep is in trouble, I mean, if your sleep is fine, you can probably, you know, get away with murder on this one. But if your sleep is in trouble and you really need to start maxing out these kind of simple behavioral techniques to kind of help, and it's about training your systems again to know,
about that routine so that it happens at that time, and it was a bit like hungry, isn't it? That you have your meals at the times that you have your meals, and if you go beyond them, you know, you're ready to eat somebody's arm, because that's when your tummy is expecting to be fed, and your body likes that kind of cycle and routine.
Definitely. And I think, you know, when you look at things like traditional Chinese medicine and, you know, Ayurveda, you know, these sort of ancient medicines, they all operate on rhythms. You know, they all talk about the rhythms of the body, either over a 24-hour clock or over a month or over, you know, even the rhythms of life. You know, these rhythm things is so important. And I think particularly with sleep, because the thing with sleep is you can't make yourself go to sleep, can you? You know, what you have to do is create the situations where your body allows itself to kind of tip into sleep. And these are some of the things that you do. So I had recently had a lady who she was really struggling, and you know, she said, look, I think I've got adrenal fatigue. And I said, well, you know, you possibly have. You know, she'd had, as she puts it, bucket loads of stress in her life for like 20 years. You know, it was just one thing after another. And in the end, all we did was just, you know, got her sleep. We did this work with her, but, you know, in a really on it kind of way. And she came in, she was sleeping 4 hours a night and was knackered. You know, her health was just going down the pan. After about 8 weeks, she was down up to 6 hours. And I saw her just the other day, and she's now 7.5 hours, nice and shiny. She looks different. You know, I hardly recognized her when she walked in, just through her sleep. You know, it was so powerful. It was lovely to see. But again, you know, it's that thing about, it can be simple things just done consistently that make this difference. You know, it's really powerful.
If anybody's got any questions that are watching live, pop them in. This one's Kathy's question. With stress, sometimes you can't tackle it head on immediately, like give up a job in the moment. So then is it about coping strategies?
Yeah, so I think it's always, you know, and that's one of the pieces of work that I really love that you do, Emma, about, you know, focus on what you can do rather than what you can't. And that's nowhere is that more true than in a situation like that, because the situation like that, if you just focus on well, I can't give my job up, so therefore it's all hopeless. If you allow yourself to focus on that, then actually you stay stuck in fear. You know, it's terrifying being in that place thinking, God, you know, I can't cope with this. It's slowly making me feel really crap. And yet I have to keep doing it. It's an awful place to find yourself in. It's so stressful and so scary. But the thing to focus on is think, okay, fine, that's clear. You know I don't want that. So actually, what do I want? And then just start facing that, you know, what we've talked about a few times already. Start facing the thing, start looking it in the eye and going, okay, this is how it really is. So which bits of this could I start to do something about, you know, this week or this month? And it could be tiny things to begin with, but don't let the fact that something might be tiny put you off, because hopefully, as I've already illustrated in this session today, that small can be massively significant. Like out of this world significant. You know, don't be put off just by the fact that something might seem really small and you think, well, that's not going to make that much impact, but actually, you know, it really.
I think, as you said, one, knowledge is power. So when you talked about stress before, that having that head-on discussion with, I'm actually admitting I'm really fucking stressed.
Yeah.
Because so often what we do is go, no, I'm just gonna, and actually, I'm really stressed. Right, what's on my plate? What can I get rid of? What do I want to replace this? You know, so if you're stuck in that kind of, it's really horrible and I can't get out, how trapping must that feel?
Oh, it's horrendous. Yeah.
Really, really horrible. But I'm really stressed. What can I do about it? Where could I apply for another job? Where could I start to look at new opportunities? What can I control with what's already there?
Yeah, definitely. And I think, and you know, and if the conclusion is actually I've got to just hold myself in this really difficult place right now, I've just got to just tough it out, then I would say, you know, don't then shelve your exit plan. Do actively be exit planning, but in the meanwhile, really up the self-care, like massively up it. Because a lot of the time when we feel very trapped, we feel kind of, I don't know, I was almost going to use the word feeling slightly abused and used. You know, you end up feeling like life is sucking you out, and there's nothing, you just have to let it. You know, you have to, and you are voluntarily turning up for that every single day, and it's an awful situation to be in. But actually upping the self-care, because what that then activates is that fact that actually I think I'm important. You know, I know it sounds a bit woo-woo, but you know, the self-love is really, you know, because it gives your body the clear signals, actually, I'll take care of you. I'm here to look after you. I'm here to nurture you. And just having that reassurance, you know, is really important.
Yeah, if you have to sit in it, you need the light at the end of the tunnel, don't you?
Yeah, it's partly having the light at the end of the tunnel, but also, like, because I think Karen asked, is it then just about coping strategies? So when we say coping strategies, you know, I would still say be actively exit planning. Even if that exit is not for another 6 months or a year or 2 years, you can still be actively exit planning, because it gives you a sense of power and control over your situation. You know, it stops that helplessness, but also that really upping your self-care so that you can, you know, that feeling of insignificance we can get when life is being done to us is really, you know, quite eroding, important. I hope does that answer the question okay?
I think so. We will see if it does. Gina says, any idea why a body clock might seem to get used to waking up very early? I keep waking up between 3 and 3:05, but then, to be fair, once I realise I'm not falling back asleep, I make the situation irreversible by jumping on my phone.
Okay, so there's a couple of things to say about the waking up. So this is a pattern that I see quite often. So people say to me, look, I can fall asleep fine, but actually staying asleep is the problem, you know, and then when I do wake up, I just can't get back to sleep. So there's a couple of things to say about that. Firstly, there is a very particular thing that goes with the 3 o'clock waking up. And again, this is going to sound a bit woo-woo, but that is actually to do with your liver functioning. So it's a classic thing in, you know, Chinese medicine, meridian, acupuncture land, you know, and I'm not trained in any of those things, but this is to do with your liver meridian. So if you're somebody who often wakes up, or you wake up on the clock at 3, then it could be to do with how your liver is detoxifying. So what I would really suggest is that you start looking at your detoxification support. So hydration, gorgeous vegetable intake, and sugar detox, three starters to start kickstarting that process. So that's the first thing. The second thing is that it's really helpful sometimes when you're somebody who wakes up during the night a lot to understand that we tend to sleep in cycles of 90 minutes. And so what I have sometimes said to people, look, you know, if you go to bed at 10:10, your first cycle is going to end at 11:30. The next one's going to end at 1. And guess what? 3 o'clock is like the end of cycle 4. So, and what happens at the end of these cycles is that our sleep gets lighter before the next cycle arrives, and then we go back into the next phase of sleep. And so sometimes just understanding that actually, do you know what? I've just woken up in a, you know, where I've gone from one cycle into the next, and just understanding that and knowing that there's nothing wrong. Yeah. It's just my body is just sleeping now so lightly that I'm aware I'm awake. And if I just stay lying here, I know it will just tip into the next cycle. So, and just understanding that actually that is just how your body sleeps sometimes can be really, really helpful for people. And then they go, oh, okay, so if I just lie there instead of thinking, oh God, you know, because we tend to get that whole thought cascade that rushes in, doesn't it? Where we go, oh my God, it's happening again. And now I'm going to feel shit tomorrow. And well, I might as well get on my phone and do some work then, you know. Really, really common pattern that you think, oh, I might as well just write it off. You know, I'm going to feel bad now anyway tomorrow. And that whole kind of thought process then kicks in. And so just allowing yourself to stay really calm at that point and go, okay, do you know what? This is probably just me going from one cycle into the next. And you can pretty much work it out based on what time you went to bed or went to sleep, should I say. And so that's really worth knowing, and quite a powerful piece of information to help just keep a little bit calmer and not, you know. So what I would say to anybody who's waking up at 3 o'clock, apart from doing those 3 things that I've just said,
first thing,
is to just stay very calm. Don't go on your phone, brain all the light signals that goes, oh, okay, I need to wake up now. You know, stay nice and calm, stay in the dark, just, you know, have a drink of water by your bed if necessary, just, you know, and then just see if you can just sort of very calmly just reassure yourself and just see if you can ride it out. So if you max those things out, hopefully you'll start to feel quite a lot of improvement. If not, give me a shout.
Kate says it's called the Harari cycle. Super interesting. The different times that energy moves through different meridians.
Yes. So what's it called? The Harari?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. I didn't know it was called that. I knew it was to do with the liver, and it's quite a classic thing that I see when I see people who aren't detoxifying properly, that they have this 3 o'clock waking up thing.
Very interesting.
Yeah.
Let's have a look. Debbie says, really useful information. Thank you. Just stumbled across this live. Absolute pleasure, dear. Thanks for the reminder of sleep cycles. Yes, I get the thought cascade. Yeah, I think that's really normal. So yeah, I'd love to know how you get on, Gina. I'd love to know how you get on, because I know Gina's super busy. Gina's got a toddler, a job, and a business.
Oh my God.
Gina's super busy. She's super lady. So it'd be interesting to see how you get on with those tips. Does anybody want to ask anything else? Is there anything else that comes up as common health concerns, things that we are and aren't doing? Exercise. What are your thoughts on exercise, Dr. Marguerite?
Do I have to? Right now?
Yoga makes us both angry. I was so happy that I found somebody else who was an angry yogi.
Oh God. Oh yeah. So sorry, I'm laughing. I'm just so I think just to draw the distinction between exercise and movement. So first of all, you know, when we have lack of movement, in other words, when we have a mainly sedentary lifestyle, this is thought to be the new smoking, isn't it? So the risk factors to our health in terms of increased risk of all sorts of things. If we have a largely sedentary lifestyle, you know, spend a lot of our time sitting on our bum then and not moving around very much, then that is one thing. So this doesn't involve getting into Lycra or going to the gym or anything like that, anything admirable like that or anything scary like that. But yeah, so just get it moving is the first thing. And to get enough exercise in that would, you know, for good health benefits, you don't even need to do anything dramatic. Just walking is fine. You know, if you get a good walk in for, you know, and they talk about these 10,000 steps, don't they? But so the 10,000 steps is really more to do with the anti-sedentary lifestyle. And, you know, if anybody has one of these apps on their phone or has one of these wearable technologies that you know, it beeps at you, doesn't it? It goes, move, you know, after 2 hours, if you've been sat, go move. It's like, oh my God, it's telling me.
I saw a really great meme this morning that said that if you eat cookies really, really fast, the Fitbit thinks you're running.
it's the same with painting, apparently. So so there's that idea of getting out of sedentary. And I think for anybody who's thinking, oh, where do I start, then I would just say, look, just get moving more. And I've even heard of people do things like, instead of sitting on an office chair, on a computer chair, sit on one of those bouncy balls, and just that little bit of wriggling that you naturally do. Put your bin in the next room. So you have to get out of your chair just every so often, put something in the bin, or if you have to answer a call, make the phone on the other side of the room. Just little practical things. It doesn't need to involve anything, dramatic. Yeah. So those, and really quite genuinely, there's lots of research to support that all of that is super duper effective. So again, a little goes a very long way. So then the next thing is actually a kind of proper exercise, which sounds a bit scary. So doing something, they say doing something cardiovascular that will get you out, enough to get you out of breath for 30 minutes, 5 times a week. So this is your 150 minutes of whatever you do that gets you out of breath. And I think, we can let our imagination run riot, quite frankly. Anything that gets you out of breath counts. So
I don't know what you're referring to, Dr. Marguerite.
I couldn't possibly imagine. But, I'm thinking, of course, of singing in the kitchen, or,
dancing to the Greatest Showman soundtrack, or...
Yeah. But, anything at all. So, 150 minutes is quite a long time, I suppose. So.
It's for one action.
Anyway, so that's another thing. And the other thing, actually, I think particularly with entrepreneurs, we spend a lot of our time inside. Mm-hmm. And so actually doing some of our work outside. So for example, if you get a chance to take your, if you're on your laptop writing your blogs or your emails or whatever, if you can take them outside to somewhere and just get some daylight into your poor little eyeballs, that would be awesome. Because we need daylight, especially this time of year when it's, it's shrinking rapidly, the amount we get outside. And even if that means, you don't have to take time out to do that, you could still just take your laptop outside or take your phone outside or whatever it is. And so I would really recommend that.
Vitamin D.
Bit of vitamin
I have popped the link into Dr. Marguerite's free Facebook group, which is called Dr. Marguerite's Clinic. I'm more than happy to have any of you over there in her clinic, because she does live trainings over there. What's the next live training?
Oh, yeah, I think the next live training is going to be about kick the carb cravings. So anybody who struggles with carb cravings and just really getting an understanding of just what causes those. And then I think we're going to do another one quite soon after that, doing more of a deep dive around fatigue. And again, some real practical things you can do to start making those energy levels a bit more sustainable. So if that sort of stuff is stuff that you love, then, come and join the clinic. It's free to join. It's really fun. And
Fabulous. Does anybody have anything else that they would like to ask? Anything else that is coming up for them that they would like some direction on? Drop it in now, because we can make sure that we cover those things. Whilst we're on the live stream, if you're watching the replay, then you can always add additional comments in. We'll come back and answer them later on, as and when, so that we can make sure that you aren't left out.
Okay.
If there is anything else, pop it in and give us a shout up, because it would be great to be able to answer your questions here whilst we're live. So I think one of my plus points is the fact that the kettle is far enough away that I have to do a flight of stairs every time I want a cuppa.
Yeah.
So that's a good
one. You've put stairs in there as well. Lovely.
Yeah, and I like a cuppa, so there's a lot of stair climbing.
I think I keep looking at my bouncy ball. It's sitting just over there in the corner, and I think, do you remember those space hoppers we used to have?
Yes.
God, I need a space hopper. I just have a little bounce around my clinic. I do. I feel like I need a resurgence of space hoppers.
Me and Maggie are currently doing a skipping challenge.
Oh, yeah.
Somebody came into school, and it's a 2-minute skip challenge. It's called Skip to Be Fit. There's an app, and you count how many skips you can do in 2 minutes.
Right.
And he was really good with the kids, because what he said is, what does practice make? And the kids said, practice makes you better, not perfect.
Oh, brilliant.
That was his attitude.
Oh, I like that.
Children. And for all of the kids, his attitude was that, you know, it doesn't matter whether you do 4, but if tomorrow you can do 5, that's amazing. And it was all about personal progress and personal challenges. So me and Maggie now every morning are doing a 2-minute skip off.
It's actually quite hard to skip for 2 minutes, isn't it?
I can do 155 now.
Can you, in a row without stopping?
In 2 minutes. Well, sometimes I stop. It's just that you've just got to fill the 2 minutes.
I see. Oh, I see. Okay, fine. Yeah, got you. Yeah. Because I tried to, because I was trying this high intensity thing, but I couldn't really do all these burpees and what have you. So I thought, I don't know what, I'll do high intensity skipping. So I did, I do 60 skips, I think, and then I just relax for however long it takes me to get my breath back, which is sometimes quite a long time.
Till the next day.
And then I do it, you know, like times 4 or whatever. So it's not, but it's a similar thing, and it's quite fun because you feel. I think there's something about skipping that makes you feel like a girl again.
Yeah, it is quite a girl.
It's really young and silly, doesn't it?
Yeah. I also have exercise when Kate rings me because she says run. And I have to go and run and find the phone because she actually rings me on the physical phone. But she's changed now. She's decided to go online because it's cheaper. Gina says, thank you so much. And hashtag bring back space hoppers.
Oh, yes.
Fab advice. Great as always, said Donna. Absolute pleasure, my dear. So if you are joining on the replay, or if you go away and you think about another question later, then don't hesitate to pop it in. I'll always tag Marguerite back in to come over if there is anything that you want her to cover. Also, make sure that you are making your way over to her free group that is the Dr. Marguerite Clinic if you want to get involved in the live trainings that she does over there, and have a doctor in your corner. Who doesn't want that? Thank you ever so much for joining me today, Marguerite. It's been lovely, lovely, lovely to have you.
Thank you so much. It's been really fun, really enjoyable.
This is such an important one. I'm going to make sure that this video is available also over on the YouTube channel so that it'll be easy for people to find and be able to watch it again. Was it Body Boss you tried? I can't do the burpees. They're awful. But I'm starting to use this as a program, as a home hit program. I think, you know, it is about what you want to do and what works for you. You know, like we said before, we're both angry yogis.
But I think something that makes you laugh is good as well, isn't it? Because I always feel like I'm having fun when I'm skipping or when I'm, but you know, doing something like burpees, I just feel like it's such a struggle. And then you have to look at the floor the whole time because you're like, oh God, you know, it's just like it all just gets in the way.
You got to make sure you've had a week first. A little bit like trampolining, that's all I'll say. Well, on that note, thank you all for joining us. It's been lovely, lovely, lovely to have you, Marguerite. And I hope you've all got something from it, whether that be to drink a little bit more, whether that be to look at your sugar intake and sugar detoxing, whether that is just to look after yourself a little bit more and look at what you can do. I hope you all got something from it, and know that it isn't just you if you feel a little bit like you're struggling and that you're not quite getting what you need. So have an absolutely epic rest of your Friday, and thank you for joining us, and thank you, Dr. Marguerite.
Thanks everybody. Bye.
Bye.